Greetings, friends, and welcome to Enigma Night Gaming. My name is Liara, and I will be your guide in today's adventure. Today, we are playing the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, and today, well, we're still going to have to defend Sasaki-san because that actor, Shamspeare, still pointed the finger of blame at him for poisoning him. Poor Sasaki, what's going to happen? I don't know, but let's hop in and let's find out. 22nd of February, 9:23 a.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. Oh boy. The Old Bailey. This place always makes me feel strange. I seem to get chills down my spine and break out in a nervous sweat all at the same time. Well, I didn't think I'd be back here so soon. That's my line. Oh, it's him. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Natsumi. It was only 2 days ago that I was declared not guilty here. Yes, we somehow managed to prove he didn't stab Miss Green in the back. But now this. Another morning, another murder, and here I am again in this hellhole. Can't keep coming to court. I'm beginning to think he's right. It really does seem as though he's cursed. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid I have bad news. Oh. Mr. Natsumi, good morning. Yes, morning. So here we are again. Yes, again. They're just ... The awkward silence. Judicial Assistant, Miss Mikutova, Esquires. What's the bad news? Oh dear, you heard, did you? If you come in shouting at the top of your voice, people can't help hearing what you say. Oh, I am sorry. You've done nothing wrong, Mr. Sato. Now, what is it? Let's see. Well, it seems that the prosecution in today's trial... It's gonna be the Reaper. ...will be led by Lord Baron Van Zeeks. Of course it is. Van Zeeks. Ah, no. Oh, no, no. Oh, man. The so-called Reaper of the Bailey, the most legendary prosecutor in the land. In the trial 2 days ago, he pursued Sasaki-san and I relentlessly. Of course, by the skin of our teeth, we managed to pull through, but still... Perhaps Mr. Natsumi's acquittal in the last trial wasn't the end of the matter, after all. Yes, I know what you're thinking. The legend of the Reaper that says, nothing can save a person in the dock when Lord Van Zeeks is the prosecutor. Oh no. That even if the person is found not guilty, the accused will meet a mysterious end, one way or another. And we've experienced it firsthand. Yes, with the case 3 of the last game. A man we successfully defended met the most terrifying end after his acquittal, right here in the Old Bailey. Of course, we found out who lit that on fire if you watch the case 5 in that series. Ugh, do I have to put up with those ice-cold eyes boring into my soul again? Cursed by evil spirits, and now by the Reaper. Pair of petrified perils, potentially. Well, if it's potentially, at least you appear to have hope, Mr. Natsumi. I mean, that's true. Locum student, Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. Yes? I'm innocent. You have to believe me. You, more than anyone now. I mean, you're just weird. It's okay. Don't worry. I'll be your steadfast ally every step of the way in this battle, I promise. And this promises to be a hard battle, I fear. Oh boy. Well, the trial is scheduled to begin shortly. We should move into the courtroom. Let's go. Oh yes,
I forgot to say. I'm afraid he won't be able to make it. Mr. Sholmes, I mean.
That's probably for the best.
Oh,
If he were here, I might be tempted to rely on his help. And that could be seen as a weakness. If Lord Van Zieks were to notice, he'd prey on it mercilessly. At least, that's my gut feeling.
Mr. Naruhodo. You're right. Yes, you're so right. Oh, well said, locum student, Mr. Naruhodo, Esquire. Well said. I swear on the sword at my side, and on the spirit of Kazuma that it harbors.
Oops. I'll show him what a Japanese lawyer can do. I'll set you free with honor. That feeling when you use the wrong voice?
Oh, yes.
It's okay. We were channeling our inner Soseki-san. Alright, 22nd of February, 9:40 a.m. The Old Bailey courtroom. Hey! Thanks for the treat for Fluffy. Welcome in, Matt. Alright. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We have Santa back. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. Readiness for the trial, my learned Nipponese friend, is not what the defense needs. What you need is readiness for your inevitable defeat. It's not just in my imagination, it's really there. Lord Van Zieks has such an animosity towards us Japanese for some reason.
It was some time ago now that he first became known as the Reaper of the Bailey, I believe. These past few years, he hasn't appeared in court at all.
Yet now he's back in the courtroom, though for some reason, only when I'm defending. This Reaper, with his curious disdain for us Japanese, is a prosecutor shrouded in mystery. Alright, buckle up, Ryunosuke, we can do this. Still, this isn't the time to be pondering that. I have to concentrate on Soseki-san's trial. Furthermore, I now call upon the 6 ladies and gentlemen of the jury. You have been chosen at random to represent the will of the people in this trial. Are you ready to fulfill your duty? Absolutely. I had a feeling this larrikin wasn't innocent before.
I must say that I feel especially ruthless on days when my hat refuses to sit right.
Oh, well, I rather like how you're wearing your hat. I think the ruthless look is very fetching, actually.
Oh, I need to be somewhere at 10 o'clock. I have a very important meeting. Let's make this quick.
I couldn't agree more. I need to be home by Bob tonight or the missus will go through the roof.
Oh, may the Lord show us the light here and lead his flock to a righteous verdict. The British jury system is so very different to our own, isn't it? It's quite extraordinary to think that the power of judgment is in the hands of 6 members of the public, and that the judge can only pass sentence when all jurors are in agreement about the defendant's guilt.
6 citizens of London chosen at random. Or at least that's the idea. Although if they're chosen at random, why do we keep having so many repeat appearances? The prosecution would draw attention to the fact that the accused was on trial here but 2 days ago. Accordingly, where possible, the same jurors have been asked to return for duty today. Are you a mind reader, sir? Like, seriously? That's kind of spooky. Very well, let us commence the trial. Lord Van Zieks, your opening statement, please. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is not the intent of the prosecution to cast doubt over your past decision. However, the innocent verdict afforded to this eccentric Nipponese before has had dire consequences. Did the accused repent for his wrongdoing in that affair? Far from it. Instead, he used his freedom to perpetuate a most blood-curdling crime. I love how Van Zeeks is like, most people are innocent until proven guilty. He's like, guilty until I say so. Like, it's not even guilty until proven innocent. He's just like, if I say you're guilty, you're guilty. It doesn't matter if you're proven innocent, you're still guilty. Namely, that of the attempted murder of his neighboring lodger, an Englishman, innocent Englishman. To explain the circumstances of the crime, the prosecution calls its first witnesses to the stand. Oh boy. The detective responsible for investigating the scene, and the accused himself. Oh boy. Witnesses, your names and occupations, please. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. Come on, Sasaki. Ah, Sasaki Natsumi from the Empire of Japan. My government ordered me to come here as a student to study your language and culture. Mr. Natsumi? Yes, my lord, sir. I'm quite sure I'm not mistaken, that you swore an oath never to set foot in my courtroom again. I remember it as if it were yesterday. The day before, in fact, my lord, but close enough. Believe me, this is the last place I want to be. Inspector, let's hear from you first. Explain the case for the court. Right you are, sir. The incident occurred at the Garadeb household where the defendant has lodgings. In the ground floor room of the victim, Mr. William Shamspeare. The defendant has already admitted to visiting the victim on the night in question. Mr. Shamspeare collapsed in his room as a result of poisoning by strychnine. He was found the following morning when the landlord, suspecting something was wrong, broke down the door. Oh boy. This means, I presume, that the door to the victim's room was locked at the time of the incident? Correct, my lord. It was locked from the inside, making entry to or exit from the room impossible. Although the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, lives to tell the tale. He very nearly didn't. The man was halfway to heaven when we first found him. I was the first officer on the scene, my lord. And I have a photographic print here that I took at the time to show how I looked. Is there anything out of... I feel like there's stuff missing. Yes, a chilling scene indeed. The man looks very much deceased. That's right. Everyone present believed that's exactly what he was. Very well, I shall accept this photographic print as evidence for the court. Alright. Photographic print of the scene taken by police upon their arrival. The victim can be seen unconscious at the table, having been poisoned. Now then, Mr. Natsumi. Yes. As the defendant, do you have anything to say at this juncture?
They're haunted by evil spirits.
Good gracious, what's haunted?
My lodgings. There's been a whole series of strange happenings in my lodgings. The tenant before me died in mysterious circumstances. A woman was stabbed by no one on the street outside. My neighbor was poisoned. And me. What about me? I've nearly been killed countless times.
Killed, Mr. Natsumi? How?
Even on that fateful night it happened, when I returned from Mr. Shamspeare's room. I lit my gas stove and climbed into bed, but before long, the stove went out, and somebody tried to kill me.
You must always extinguish all fires before retiring for the night, Mr. Natsumi.
It is so cold, my runny nose would freeze. The point is, I didn't poison my neighbor. Oh, why am I being accused of this? Why is my existence so cursed?
Thank you, witnesses. I believe I have a reasonably clear picture of events. If I could raise one more point, my lord, one more conclusive point. Conclusive, go on. Fortunately, the victim, Mr. Shamspeare, has regained consciousness after his ordeal, and he has named the true culprit. The poison consumed by the victim was administered in a cup of tea that he drank on the night in question. Tea, my lord, that was brought to the victim's room by the accused. The accused? Good grief! Yeah, I think it has something to do with that choke, though. Order! Order! Yes, that's the crux of this whole case. If Sasaki-san is innocent, then why? Why has the victim accused him? Well, Mr. Natsumi, what have you to say to this accusation?
That evening, yes, I did take some freshly brewed tea with me when I visited Mr. Shamspeare's room as a gift. The public water pump outside always freezes at night, so I bought bottled water especially to make it. And this is the result. Never will I touch tea again. Never.
The public pump was frozen, you say?
That's not information we've heard before.
That will do, thank you. Now, according to our laws, the defense must have the opportunity to cross-examine witnesses at least once. Therefore, I call upon these witnesses now for a formal testimony. I presume the prosecution has no objection? None whatsoever, my lord. Good. Then you will give your account of the events on the night in question to the court now.
Yes, my lord.
Oh boy. What are they gonna say? The catastrophic night.
It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor, and I took some tea with me as a gift. We had a heated literary debate over a nice hot drink, after which I went back to my room at around 11. Ugh, my tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he?
Strychnine takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't keel over immediately after taking it. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. Yes, I see. It all seems relatively straightforward.
Excuse me, but that testimony does raise one rather crucial point, I think. Mr. Natsumi claims the tea to have been harmless. Presumably, though, the teacups have been examined for traces of the poison, haven't they?
Why didn't I think of that? Well, as it happens, no. We haven't been able to. Did I hear you correctly, Inspector? Scotland Yard has failed to examine the suspect's substance. How could you have overlooked something so important? Isn't that the first thing you should have done? My learned Nipponese friend is falsely incensed. The inspector said Scotland Yard was unable to examine the tea, not that it was overlooked. Unable? Why? It's simple enough. There was none left. Not a drop. Someone must have been very thirsty indeed. With current scientific techniques, it's not possible to test for poison under such circumstances. We only need a drop, but that one drop does actually have to exist, funnily enough. The lack of examination notwithstanding, it appears nothing other than tea passed the victim's lips on the night in question. Interesting. I see. Thank you for making this matters clear. Cast your eyes over the jury, my learned friend. What? You can see it in their faces, I'm sure. The recognition of the accused's guilt. Your client's fate is all but sealed. In a mere moments from now, you will lose, and your compatriot will be damned for all eternity. He's very sure of himself. He's right. I can feel all 6 jurors looking daggers at me. Alright, let's do it. But I can't let them beat me down. I won't. We gotta find a loophole. Counsel for the defense, proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Alright. We gotta press everything first until we find an inconsistency.
It was around 9 o'clock that evening when I visited my neighbor, and I took some tea with me as a gift.
Were you and your neighbor good friends then?
No. We weren't friends. Not at all. Not at all. Never. Ever.
A simple no would have sufficed. Then, why did you decide to pay him a visit?
Mr. Shamspeare fancies himself as having a great literary knowledge. As a fellow scholar of English literature, we find much to talk about together.
Come now, no Nipponese could understand the finer points of English literature. Wow, that's not racist at all there, Venzeeks. And on the night in question, that was the topic of conversation as well, I presume?
It was the day of my last trial when I was acquitted. I just arrived back at my lodgings when I ran into Mr. Shamspeare outside on the street. That was around 6 o'clock. We exchanged 1 or 2 pleasantries, but it soon turned into a heated discussion. He was on his way out at the time, though. So I promised to visit his room that evening at 9 to continue our debate. But did I have ill intentions? No, not one, not two, not any, none at all, not at all. Never, ever. A simple no would have sufficed, I feel.
Then tell the court, what did happen when you visited the victim's room?
We had a heated literary debate over a nice hot drink, after which I went back to my room at around 11.
Hold it! A literary debate about Shakespeare's works, I think you said, didn't you? Shakespeare? A very worthy topic of conversation, I must say.
Oh yes, my lord. Romeo and Juliet. Who was stronger? It was a profoundly pleasurable parley.
Romeo and Juliet? Who was stronger? I know I'm going to regret asking this, but how did the debate go?
Well, we both agreed that we would reach a conclusion more quickly with a reenactment. So we battled it out, in Greco-Roman style, naturally.
What?
Mr. Shamspeare had all sorts of costumes in his room for just such a contest.
So, when you say a reenactment, you mean you were actually in costume?
He as Romeo, I as Juliet, after a vigorous wild tussle. I, as Juliet, came out on top, a victory I'll cherish forever.
I dare not imagine the terrible scene of carnage. The fact remains that it was you who prepared the tea and took it to the victim, correct?
I boiled the water in my room and made a pot to take with me. I'd heard that he was too poor to have tea himself, you see.
It's true, there was no sign of any tea leaves in the man's room.
I wanted to do something nice, to be friendly. So why is everyone looking at me with such suspicion? My tea was harmless. Of course it was.
And do you have any basis for that statement, witness?
Ugh, my tea was completely harmless. He couldn't have locked the door behind me otherwise, could he?
Hold it!
Yes, there was not a drop of tea left in the victim's room anywhere, was there? That's correct. Anyone would think the fellow had never had a pot of tea before. He must have licked it dry. Which is a pity because one drop is all we would have needed to analyze it for poison. And you say that you returned home to your room at 11 o'clock, Mr. Natsumi?
Yes, definitely. By heaven and earth, I swear it.
The landlord was able to verify that as it happens. He confirmed that the defendant went back to his room at 11 that night. And how is the landlord able to attest to this? He, said it was the lamps, I believe. The lamps, Inspector? When tenants return to their rooms and start using gas, the lamps in other parts of the house flicker.
Yes, Mr. Garrett seems to pay a lot of attention to the comings and goings of his tenants. There's only one key to Mr. Shamspeare's room. I know that for certain. So he must have locked the door himself from inside his room.
The victim had confirmed that to be the case, yes.
So I'm right. My tea was harmless, completely harmless. If you take poison, you die. Everyone knows that.
It's not that simple, I'm afraid.
What do you mean?
Strychnine takes some time to have an effect on the body. People don't keel over immediately after taking it. How do you know it was strychnine? How long does it take for symptoms to appear then? According to the coroner I was speaking to at the yard, about 30 minutes after the poison consumed. Then the victim suffers violent convulsions, cramping, and stiffness, and eventually dies from asphyxiation. So there's a 30-minute interval between when the poison is ingested and the onset of symptoms. There seems to be a lot of different types of poisons in the world, that's for sure.
Oh dear, death by poisoning again. It's always so awful.
Why do you say it's strychnine if you couldn't test for poison? Like, did it show up in his system? Like, I don't know how you would know it's strychnine. Especially if 30 minutes he should be dead. 30 minutes is a long time. Yes, but from 11 to morning is longer than 30 minutes. Some doesn't add up here. Certainly long enough for the victim to have locked the door behind the accused after he left. Can't deny that, and it further degrades Sasaki-san's alibi. I have the medical report from the doctor who examined the victim here, my lord. It spells it out, really. The accused is the only person who could have done it. Very well, the court will add this report to the court record as evidence. Alright, it's a report issued by Scotland Yard's medical officer. It obviously mentions the poison as well as other details gleaned during the police investigation.
Oh yes, I see it here. Delayed onset of symptoms.
Hooray! The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. The argument still stands, you say? This is what Mr. Natsumi's been saying, isn't it? The pair of them drank tea together that night, so if there was poison in it, the victim wouldn't have been able to lock the door after the accused left later on.
Exactly. Me and my tea are innocent. Sweet and innocent, I tell you.
I'm afraid, sir, that doesn't follow. You see, strychnine is a slow-acting poison. In other words, it takes time for symptoms to appear. So you could have left the room up to 30 minutes after the victim drank the tea. And as long as you did that, Mr. Shamspeare could have locked the door after you'd gone.
But no. We drank the tea straight away. The battle over whether Romeo or Juliet was stronger, that came after the tea.
That's exactly what I was saying. Like, if you drank the tea around 9 o'clock, and then from, however long it took Sosaki he drank his tea quickly, because he didn't have the ring around where the tea sat, right? The other guy let his tea get cold though, so that might come into play actually. So I don't know. Do you have any evidence to support that statement? In my great homeland, the Empire of Japan, we have a saying: drink tea while it's hot. Sure, a proverb will satisfy the prosecution. I'm afraid there's no conclusive proof to support the defendant's assertion. On the contrary, there are sufficient grounds to infer his guilt in this matter. No. That's the extent of their testimony, is it? If I could voice a personal opinion, Mr. Naruhodo? Of course, go ahead. Mr. Natsumi is arguing for his innocence so adamantly and so persistently, yet Inspector Gregson just brushes what he says aside. It's really quite infuriating. I agree. So we need to find an inconsistency in what the inspector is saying, I think. I'm afraid so. As things stand, the jurors are sure to find Mr. Natsumi guilty. As I see it, what we need to focus on is the poison and the tea. Let's listen carefully to this testimony again. Alright, and then we're going to look at the court record as well and examine the two pieces of evidence that they gave us, right? So let's look. First, we were given this scene of the crime. I still don't know why he's holding a fork. Let's see, he's in costume. So, kind of makes you wonder. I don't know. I don't know. And then let's look at this. Victim, William Shamspeare, age 31, cause of coma, ingestion of a small quantity of strychnine. Toxic effects present 30 minutes after ingestion. High likelihood of the substance having been mixed with tea the victim was drinking, but no sample could be obtained for testing. Investigative conclusions. The poisoning incident occurred at around 1:30 a.m. on 21st of February. Assessed from the victim's pocket watch that appears to have broken when the man collapsed after the delayed onset of symptoms. No container for the poison was found at the scene. That means he had to have drank it no later than 1 a.m. And if Sosaki was in his room at 12 or at 11, he's innocent. So we just got to present that. The victim would have been perfectly able to lock the door after his guest left. The argument still stands. This is not true. We have to present the statement, right?
Objection!
Because he was gone by then. The argument still stands, you say? I think not, Inspector. Come again. I think you'll find that you've overlooked a very significant chronological inconsistency here. What? What are you on about? According to this report, the victim must have consumed the poison at around 1:30 in the morning. And yet, the defendant, Mr. Natsumi, left the victim's room at 11. Yes, that's right. There's more than 2 hours of missing time there. There you go. Whoopsie. In other words, if there was a poison in the tea that Mr. Natsumi brought to the victim's room, how could the victim have fallen ill to it 2.5 full hours after the defendant left? I mean, we're right. The defense's argument is entirely reasonable. How do you respond, Lord Van Zieks? He responds by pouring his chalice of blood and flinging it against a wall because he's mad. Just watch. Pray forgive the discourtesy if my mind has wandered. I was considering what cuisine would best complement the contents of my hallowed chalice this luncheon. How could it have happened, you ask? Oh, he just crushes it. Okay.
I do hate to shatter illusions, but my Nipponese friend appears to be chasing a phantom idea.
A phantom...
Is it so hard to imagine the victim drank his tea after the accused had left? For example, at the time stated in the medical report. Yes, at around 4:30.
Objection!
Mr. Natsumi brought the tea with him to drink together with his neighbor. And in Japan, there is a well-known saying, drink tea while it's hot.
Objection!
And in my country, there is even a more apt saying. There is nothing more refreshing than cold tea.
The point is, if there was such a long gap, there may be other ways to explain how the victim came to be poisoned, other possibilities.
What sort of possibilities, counsel?
Well, for example, the man could have had another visitor.
Another visitor? That's a very bold assertion, my learned friend, from someone who has nothing to substantiate it.
Or the victim could have taken the poison of his own volition.
Just this may have been a suicide, counsel.
Objection!
Mr. Shamspeare has categorically denied suicide. The idea can and must be discounted.
Objection!
But he could be lying. I mean, that's true, he could be.
Is something wrong, Lord Van Zeeks? I was listening to the sound of the carriage pulling up outside the courtroom. Pray forgive the discourtesy.
Carriage? What carriage? It's gonna be Shamspeare, isn't it?
It would seem that the key player in this case has just arrived.
Boy? Who do we have?
Out, out, brief candle. Life is but a walking shadow.
Oh boy.
A poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing.
Who, sir, are you?
William Shamspeare, my lord, alas, was I undone by these bitter events. I am the victim. What? What's he doing here?
Oh boy.
The prosecution seeks to call this gentleman to the stand. With his testimony, my learned friend's futile resistance will be utterly crushed.
You're calling him as a witness?
Very well, counsel. I grant your request with interest. I'm curious to discover what the court shall hear from the victim himself. Happy am I, Shamspeare, to regale thee with my tale of woe, my lord. But I still have my own tale to tell, my own tale of worse woe. I can regale the court with the tale of my perfect innocence in perfect English. That will do, Mr. Natsumi. Let the court now hear from the victim.
Oh boy. He looks so happy there. Who are... That's the guy that was standing outside the window. Alright, so that's Mr. Shamspeare, but who's that other man beside him exactly? He's the one that was looking out the window when we were checking out the soap, and then he ran away.
Yes, I feel sure that we've caught a glimpse of that man before. State your names and occupations for the court, please, witnesses. A writer of words so sweet they do scent the breeze, an inventor of ideas so profound they compose the earth, the unrivaled poet, the unmatched scribe, William Shakespeare, were the great bard to be recalled to life anew. Lo, what a magnificent man! Good fellows, I am he who ponders such a miracle, William Shamspeare.
Oh, the name's Meterman, and John B. Meterman. I work for the Altmass Gas Company, East End branch office.
Ah, I remember now. It was yesterday on Briar Road.
Oh yes, she's right. It's him. Yep. Oh, what's this? Yeah, what was he doing? What's that man doing over there? It looks like he's trying to see into Soseki-san's lodgings. Was he trying to read the meter because Garada won't let him see the meter?
Is something wrong, Mr. Naruhodo?
Excuse me, could we have a word? And he's off? Such a strange, peculiar character. Yes, we spotted him outside Mr. Garadeb's house that morning. And he's a gas company employee? What does he have to do with this case? I wonder. Maybe he wasn't poisoned at all. Maybe it's a gas leak that Garadeb has been monitoring, and that's why previous tenants died? So, Mr. William Shamspeare, you are the victim in this miserable affair, correct?
Oh, heaven, oh well, do you command me to remember? That sweet poison that did cross me and cross mine innocent lips. I subpoenaed him for the trial, with his doctor's permission, naturally. Hearing the testimony of the aggrieved will remove any room for doubt from the jurors' minds, I'm sure. Behold, you have only to rearrange the letters of my name to see that me's a seraph, an angel indeed. Thus be I noble of mind, sweet of nature, and verily honest of heart, as all heavenly angels be.
Because there isn't a less contrived meaning in your name? No, not at all. Definitely not a sham.
The jurors seem to be very moved by this man, I'm afraid.
So the jurors are a bunch of gullible saps? They're actually taking this seraph anagram idea seriously? My goodness. Thank you, witnesses, for your illuminating introductions. But my lord, what's the man next to Mr. Shamspeare doing here? The gas man, I mean. What? Me? Well, now?
Allow me to enlighten my learned friend.
You recall, I presume, your earlier impertinence?
When you suggested that the victim had another visitor to his room on the night in question. And moreover, that the victim is a compulsive liar.
What? No, I didn't quite say that.
This young chin-stroker is here to controvert your wild claims conclusively. Is that not so, Mr. Meterman?
Hang on, no, I'm just here. I hereby call your formal testimonies. You will tell the court as lucidly as possible what happened on the night in question.
One may smile and be a villain. Yes, it doth pain me, but let the truth be spoken, the truth of that wintry night of my discontent.
He's just so happy. The wintry night of my discontent. Oh boy.
The snow lay about. My neighbour did cometh in the evening, bearing a gift of tea. But merry, bitter was his drink, and when he left, I did fall prostrate on my table. 'Twas the tea alone did pass my lips that late hour, naught else.
I was outside the bloke's window in the freezing cold all night, keeping an eye on his room. No one else visited his room but that short, little, round-backed Eastern fella. But why were you outside? That's what I want to know. Wait, what did you say? You were keeping an eye on Mr. Shamspeare's room all night? That's right. Of course, the book's window is all but blocked up, isn't it? But there's a little gap in the bricks where you can see into the room. So I spent the night trying to keep my teeth from chattering as I peered in through that. The question is, sir, why? Well now that's because he's on my list.
What a piece of work is a man! Wherefore wouldst thou not stare in wonderment?
What are you talking about?
This buzzing busybody hath not part in this play. I pray thee, pay him no heed, make no more ado about his tedious words.
What'd you say about me?
Calm yourself. This court is concerned with what happened on the night in question, nothing more.
Indeed, that is so.
And as the testimony we have just heard clearly reveals, there was no one other than the accused present at the time who could have carried out this crime.
But is it true? I'm not convinced. Well, I believe this may be the final testimony of the trial. Now, counsel, the defense may proceed with the cross-examination. Yes, my lord. Oh boy. The wintry night of my discontent.
The snow lay about. My neighbor did cometh in the evening, bearing a gift of tea.
To be clear, by neighbor, you are referring to the defendant, Mr. Natsumi.
Oh, indeed, sire. Perchance thou wouldst I call him the man from upstairs? And at what time did the mustached Nipponese visit you in your room? Our meeting was promised for the hour of 9, and lo did he come to tender a gift of fragrant tea.
Details which are in accordance with the defendant's own testimony, yes.
And we were broiled in such a literary debate as history hath not seen before.
By which I presume he means...
their discussion about who was the stronger, Romeo or Juliet. I, Shamspeare, did play the part of young Romeo, whilst my neighbour played the fair Juliet, each of us dressed as would our characters be, to bring weight upon our merry experiment.
I dare not imagine the scene.
Frailty, thy name is woman. Canst thou imagine how dismayed I was? Yes, I had heard of the Eastern art of jujitsu, but... and ne'er did I dream 'twould be a skill practiced by the comely maiden.
Juliet beat Romeo up. This is not helping our case.
I believe the court has heard enough about your earth-shattering literary debate. Perhaps you could reiterate your statement about the tea that the accused brought to your room. My liege, I am thy servant. Gladly I would do thy bidding. But marry, bitter was his drink, and when he left I did fall prostrate on my table.
Hold it!
Let me stop you there. Mr. Natsumi left your room at 11 o'clock, but it wasn't until after 2 that the poison made you collapse. That amounts to more than 3 hours of missing time. If the defendant had really put the poison into your tea, that 3-hour window of time is something you're going to have to explain.
Gladly, 'tis an easy task.
What?
I did drink of the tea, not while my guest did tarry, but after he took leave of me. faith. 'Twas stone cold, but at 1 hour post midnight, verily were my lips parched.
Objection!
That doesn't sound normal.
Nay, 'tis quite ordinary, sire, after all. Thou wouldst recall our fiery debate amid such argument. There'd be no time for fiery tea.
Romeo and Juliet again, and who was the stronger?
Mr. Shamspeare, in summary, allow me to confirm. You did not come here with the intention of naming your attacker? But of course, my liege, it was the stooped lover of words, did attempt to shuffle me off this mortal coil.
Ugh, we all know what that means.
'Twas the tea alone did paps my lips that late hour, naught else.
Hold it!
So you didn't have any kind of evening meal? Dinner? Supper?
Ha! Fie on luxury, fie on gluttony. To eat thrice daily is but a waste of time.
Then why did you have a fork in your hand, sir? Sorry?
I would that my belly were full no more oft than the sun doth rise.
Well, most heroic eating habits, I must say.
Night and day do I fill my hours with learned study of the great bard and playwright. Hence it is but that there doth not in my chamber be learn the costumes of mine art.
That would appear to be the case, as even a rodent was found starved to death in your room.
Now that I think of it, it's not just food that was conspicuously missing from that room, is it? I don't recall seeing a single play or script anywhere. For I have devoured them all.
You've eaten them?
Every word within my skull. Didst thou imagine otherwise?
Right. That wasn't misleading at all. Now, could you turn around, do you think? Which brings us to the conclusion that the only way the poison could have passed the victim's lips is in the tea. I was outside this bloke's window in the freezing cold all night, keeping an eye on his room.
Hold it!
Why? But the windows of that house have all been filled in.
A historical artifact of the now defunct window tax.
Yeah, you're right there. All bricked up horribly. But as it happens, there's a little part of the brickwork at the bottom corner that's been opened up. I was looking in through that gap.
Yes, there were a few bricks loose, weren't there?
For some strange reason, a couple of bars of soap lined up on the ledge outside as well. I don't like going around poking my chin in other people's business, especially on freezing cold nights. But them's my orders, so that's what I'll keep doing, as long as there's breath in my body. What's with all the theatricals today?
Out of interest, Mr. Meterman, after the accused had left and returned to his own lodgings, did you see the victim leave the room at all?
No, he never left. He was in that room the whole time, as far as I'm concerned.
And we can therefore discount the possibility of suicide.
How can you be sure of that?
The police carried out a thorough investigation of the scene and found no receptacle for the poison. And since we know the victim didn't leave his room and hence didn't dispose of the poison's container himself, it's clear that this was no attempted suicide. Only the culprit could have removed the receptacle.
Unless it's whatever was in that soap.
Ah, yes, lucidly explained, counsel. Thank you.
It really was. You can't argue with the logic.
No one else visited his room but that short little round-backed Eastern fellow.
Hold it!
You say short little round-backed Eastern fella, so you can't be sure it was the defendant.
Objection!
any other short, little, round-backed Nipponese with a mustache do you think there are in London?
Well, of course. It's only a narrow gap, and it was quite dark, so I didn't notice the mustache. But he showed up at around 9, so I'm pretty sure of myself. And when the person you saw arrived, did he and Mr. Shamspeare drink tea together? Nah, sorry, I couldn't say. Why not? Because I couldn't see into the room all that well, could I? But what I did see was a silhouette of that little round-backed fellow wearing a pretty dress. And the pair of them started some kind of wrestling match. I tell ya, I didn't know what to make of it.
I suppose that was the Romeo and Juliet championship battle getting underway.
Mr. Meterman, allow me to confirm one final time. Apart from the accused, can you state with certainty that no one else visited the victim on the night in question? No question. Gasman's honor. Who is it now? Is it gonna be... My lord! Goodness me, yes, Mr. Foreman. I've kept my mouth shut and listened up to now, but this has gone on long enough. Are you all with me? Yes! They're all going to declare guilty. Allow me to understand that you ladies and gentlemen of the jury are in agreement with one another. That you've reached a unanimous decision. Too right we have. Are you all with me?
Yes.
Wait, no. The defense is in the middle of a cross-examination. To be honest, I was holding out a bit of hope for you, young man. Especially after you identified those few hours that followed the accused leaving the victim's room.
Yes, the 3 missing hours, as you put it.
But in the end, what difference do they make? None, as far as I can see.
And since that's now apparent, there's really no reason to delay our decision any longer.
Like I was saying before, if I don't take 5 bob home with me tonight, the missus will blow her top. Huh? What's that? Sorry, I didn't quite catch what you said. Very well, let the court be apprised of your decisions. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will state your leanings as to the defendant's culpability.
Guilty!
Of course.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Of course. Of course. All of you? Well, it would appear the jury is indeed unanimous. Time for Van Zeeks to celebrate. So, this time at least, it seems justice will be done. All's well that ends well, as they say. This calls for a toast, I feel. You should know us by now, Van Zeeks, that you're not going to get a chance to drink that toast. To the guilty being punished. Ugh. Time to poll the jury. You look like a bumblebee.
Get up, Mr. Naruhodo, please. The trial isn't over yet.
What do you mean, Miss Osato?
What about the information I found in this encyclopedia of British law I have? That obscure right that belongs to the defense in these situations, remember?
Yep. It's time to question the jury. A summation examination. Yes, that's right. We don't have a jury in Japanese courts, of course. But here in a British court of law, if we can reverse the decisions of a majority of the jurors, we can force the trial to continue. This trial can't end now. Whatever it takes, I just can't let that happen. The defense moves to invoke its right to a summation examination, my lord. Why am I not surprised at my learned Nipponese friend's inability to admit defeat? You choose to cling desperately to some archaic rule you barely comprehend instead of accepting the truth. Certainly no other defense counsel in recent times has exercised the right to a summation examination. Because they all know that once the jury's mind is set, it cannot be altered. Have you been to any of the trials lately? These jurors ping-pong back and forth like they're playing a game. Nevertheless, the right remains and must be upheld. The defense counsel's request is granted. The court will proceed with summation examination as outlined in the Encyclopedia of British Law. Thank you, my lord. Are you and your fellows prepared, Mr. Foreman? Believe me, my lord, we all know about this young lad's tenacity. And we're ready for it. Very well. In that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I hereby call upon each of you to state the grounds upon which you find the defendant guilty of the crime for which he stands accused. Judicial findings. Alright, so let's see what they have to say. Victim may not be well off, but he's a nobleman and straight up. There's no reason to doubt the man.
Well, I do declare the good gentleman has no reason to lie. In fact, I think he's rather splendid. Just look at the accused by comparison. He's Japanese, stoops all the while, and has a mustache. Very fishy. There's no evidence to suggest the gangling actor is a fraudsman. For now, at least.
I really don't care. I just need this trial to end quickly.
3 hours of missing time is nothing when you reach my age, you know. Nothing at all.
What? I knew it. Every single one of them seems completely convinced.
It would seem that all the jurors have come to the conclusion that Mr. Shamspeare is a fine, upstanding, and honest citizen.
If you ask me, they've all been bewitched by his strange theatrical movements.
And sadly, nothing Mr. Natsumi has said appears to have registered at all.
Well, here goes. Let's not forget. I've pleaded with the jury on Saseki-san's behalf before and it works, so you never know.
Before we begin, it might be an idea for me to remind you exactly how a summation examination works, Mr. Naruhodo.
Oh.
Well, you're still very new to British law, after all.
That's true, I suppose. And Saseki-san's fate is entirely in my hands now, too. There's always a chance I might have forgotten some crucial detail. Perhaps I should hear Susato-san out. I wonder, should I let her talk me through it again or bother? Sure, we know, but why not?
Alright, so if you remember, the key to changing the juror's mind is the things they say themselves.
Yes, it's coming back to me. First, it's important to listen very carefully to each juror's statement. Then if it sounds as though one of those statements might contradict another, I have to pit the corresponding two jurors against each other to prove one or the other of them wrong.
Yes, that's right. In many ways, it's very similar to a normal cross-examination.
Alright then, all that remains now is to do it. Without further ado, please, counsel, proceed with the summation examination. Steel yourself up, because you're gonna need it. Yes, my lord. The jury examination. And of course, we are going to visit that in the next episode. Um, so we have learned an awful lot. Like, we have several theories now, I think. Um, if we go with the suicide theory, how could he have killed himself? Well, there's the soap outside in the windowsill that was freezing it. Maybe it was gas, maybe it was strychnine. I don't know. They said it was strychnine. Why would he have it out there? I don't know. But that could have been a potential answer to where the poison container went to. Other things that could have happened. Maybe there's a gas leak. That might explain why Garudeb keeps such a close eye on the comings and goings of the tenants. Maybe he's trying to make sure that there's no gas leak. So that could be a possibility. There's so many things that we have to figure out, but we will investigate them in the next episode. So if you like this kind of content, please make sure to like, subscribe, follow, share, all that good stuff. If you want to watch live, we're on Twitch at twitch.tv/theR27. I have my schedule posted in the about and then the description. If you want to see which games we're playing each day, I post them on x.com/theR27. And I hope you'll join me in the next one. Until then, guys, bye.